It's been about 3 weeks since the closure of Golden Gate Fields. I wanted to do the video, thinking about doing it originally a week after, um, or maybe even a day after. But I think 3 weeks is something to kind of think back of what's going on and what's happening now with the racing in Northern California. Before I go into that, I just wanted to provide a quick recap on my last day at Golden Gate Fields, which was Belmont Stakes Day. So I didn't do that well as a gambler. Um, for the Belmont Stakes, I picked Mystic Dan, and when Dornock won, I'm kind of kicking myself because if you looked at some of my clips of when I handicap races, I've always tried to put the pedigree standpoint. I did put Dornock in my Kentucky Derby betting because he's a full brother to Mage, who won the Kentucky Derby the previous year. And then when Dornock didn't run well in the Kentucky Derby, I left him off the Belmont Stakes ticket. Mistake, I'll be honest. He's actually a better racehorse than Mage. So in terms of ability, so at 17-1, I think that was his odds. I should have just said, hey, I should have picked Dornock over Mystic Dan. Even if Mystic Dan had won, the payout wouldn't be as big as with Dornock. So that's one I would consider I would consider not putting Dornock in the Belmont Stakes probably top five betting mistakes. Because I always look at pedigree from a standpoint when it comes to big races. So that's one of my probably my. I said top five. I'll go maybe. I'll probably go. I'll go top three. So yeah, he's the biggest miss. In terms of the golden hour pick four, I put four horses in each leg, so that came to $256. The first two legs, all the horses I picked in the first two legs won. But the third leg, none of the four horses I picked won. So there goes the golden hour pick four, and so that was my last betting at Golden Gate Fields, and the vibe at Golden Gate Fields for the Belmont Stakes, and even throughout, it's more of a it was more of like a it wasn't saddened. It was like, okay, let's just enjoy it because you know, you know it appears like the year of 2024 is the year of closure. Um, it's like with the A's, last year in Oakland, um, with the Pac-12 conference ending. Uh, this last day officially on June 30, and then Golden Gate Fields. And so the vibe, there was music and people are having fun. Um, but yeah, the vibe there was just like an appreciation. I just wish it didn't have to come to that. So I've always made comments about what was the downfall of Golden Gate Fields, and I think everybody talked about COVID because prior to COVID there was like more things, more events, more advertisement events for like Golden Fields, especially the Dollar Sundays, where dollar parking, dollar program, dollar hot dogs, dollar beer, and they said COVID was maybe one of the responsibilities. I look at this. COVID is not the main reason, but what COVID did, it exposes what's wrong in terms of in our system. That's what COVID did. So COVID didn't shut down business; it just exposed what was wrong with it, whether it's healthcare or businesses closing down. So COVID wasn't the reason why Golden Gate Fields closed. What it did expose it was Tapeta, which is a synthetic uh, racing surface. I believe in as since the horse racing is built on on horse runners, I do believe in the safety of the horses. But putting a synthetic on a dirt track to think that it'll make it safer for the horses, it's like saying a field turf in football. Like that's going to be prevent um, ACL injuries or concussions if somebody's head hits the turf. No, it doesn't. And same thing with racing. Tapeta it doesn't prevent any injuries. Um, if you want to talk about the safety of the horses, I've always said it's where we look at our breeding here. Our breeding is just focused on speed, on milers and sprinters. It's you have big books of large chef stands with large big books, so there's not a lot of variety out there. It would have been better in terms of breeding if there's like, okay, you have a specialty, like you have one style who specializes in as a sprinter, one's in as a miler, one as a turf, one as a classic distance, and one as a long distance runner. But that's not how the focus is on breeding. It's more about speed in terms of bringing money return at the sales. And so Geppetto didn't do anything in terms of safety of the horses. What it did do is it lessened the field at Golden Gate Fields. What I have here is an article from the Daily Racing Forum, and it's actually from June 9th, which was the last day of Golden Gate Fields. And in around 2007, this is in regards to PETA, how it was installed at these racetracks in Golden Gate Fields and in Southern California. Well, Tapeta in Southern California lasted maybe about 5 years, and so, but Golden Gate Fields still kept Tapeta, and the problem is by keeping Tapeta, you have less field because there's a disconnect between the northern circuit and the southern circuit. If Golden Gate Fields is having Tapeta and then currently the Southern California racetracks do not have Tapeta, you're not bringing the second tier horses from Southern California to Golden Gate Fields. You see this picture here of the Golden Gate Fields. There's about 11 horses. From a gambler, I'll tell you this from a gambler's point of view. The more horses there are in each race, the more handling that each racetrack will have. And it's actually in terms of for a better, it's better to play around with the word. It's actually better for the bettors to have more horses on the field because that way, you know, there's opportunity to get a long shot. If there's with Tapeta at Golden Gate Fields, there's always like 5 or 6 horses. And yes, that what means is the favorite will win, but the payout is so low. If you have a let's say if there was a standard dirt racing track, you'd bring maybe the second tier horses from Southern California and have them compete with the first tier horses from Northern California. Instead of having 5 to 6 horses in each race on Tapeta, if you had a standard dirt racing, you would probably have maybe between 7 to 9 horses, and that would give more opportunity for the bettors to put more money in, and there would be actually more money being put in each race if there was 7 to 9. If you had a 7 to 9, if you have a field of 7 to 9 horses in every dirt race, you would have so much more handling for the racetrack, and for a bettor's point of view, it might be troublesome to think, oh, there's a lot of horses, but actually in the long run, it gives them opportunity to like, hey, let's just put more money in each race with the big fields because it gives them opportunity to say, okay, a long shot to come in, and it also helps the racetrack in the long run too because it's like, hey, the more horses that are on dirt races, it gives more money for the racetrack because it's like, hey, there's more money put in. But that's not what happened when when the other racetracks decided to get rid of Tapeta. Golden Gate Fields kept it, and that was the downfall. If you're only having 5 to 6 horses at on a field and on a Tapeta race, it doesn't help at all. Not a lot of money is going to be put in in handling, and then the favorites come in. So the racetrack overall will lose money because there's not a lot of money generated by handling if there's a lesser field, and if the favorite comes in, they have to pay out the payments. So that was the downfall of Golden Gate Fields. I think that if there was a sort of a Hail Mary is if Proposition 26 was passed in midterm the 22 midterm elections. I think that could have really helped Golden Gate Fields, because that was a proposition that would allow sports betting at racetracks. As I mentioned about handling, I know this is an article, but look at some of this handling that happened at Golden Gate Fields. They had in 1974, they had a handle of over $2 million. There's another handling in 1977 over $3 million, and then there's one right here that um, in 1984 they had an average record handling of $2 million. Okay, I know this is a long time ago, but if you use today's dollars, I mean that is a lot of money, and I think that's what happened with when you put Tapeta in. It limits the when you limit the field. It won't generate a lot of gambling. So after the closure of Golden Gate Fields, Santa Anita, maybe about a couple days later, Santa Anita announced that for the winter racing season, they're going to install Tapeta. The Stronach Group owned Golden Gate Fields and Santa Anita Park. I mentioned my views about Tapeta. If you're going to have Golden Gate Fields and Tapeta, then you should have also made Santa Anita Park at Tapeta. That way, you could have had more horses at Golden Gate Fields. But that's not what they did. They kept the dirt on Santa Anita and kept Tapeta on Golden Gate Fields. Now with the closure of Golden Gate Fields, they're gonna put Tapeta on the Santa Anita racing surface for the winter. And it's just baffling as a horse race, as a gambler. And it's like, I mean, I I remember the dark ages when Southern California went to Tapeta, because there was no Derby winners that would come out from the Santa Anita Derby, because it was run at that time on Tapeta. The closest was probably Pioneer of the Nile, I think in 2009, and he's the sire of the Triple Crown winner American Pharoah. Because Pioneer of the Nile, who won the Santa Anita Derby, ended up finishing second in the Kentucky Derby. But when Santa Anita decided to put it on dirt racing, it changed a lot in terms of the Triple Crown races, because I think I believe it was in I can't remember. It was early 2000s, 2010s. I think the year after they took out Tapeta, and it was on dirt. I'll have another who won the Santa Anita Derby on dirt. Ended up winning the first two legs of the Triple Crown, the Kentucky Derby and the Preakness Stakes. And I think that was in 2000. I think that was in 2012, I believe, or something like that. I could be wrong. But then after that, you had California Chrome, who won the Santa Anita Derby on dirt, and then went the first two legs of the Triple Crown, the Kentucky Derby and Preakness. Yeah, the last two Triple Crown winners, American Pharoah and Justify, were based in Southern California, and they ran dirt races in Santa Anita and Del Mar. So I'm not happy by Santa Anita putting Antipeta, and yeah, it's like, what are you trying to do with putting Tapeta? You're trying to, let's say, you're appeasing the animal right activists while alienating the bettors. And it's the bettors who are putting money into the racetrack. It's the bettors who are helping pay the overhead costs. So it's just baffling that that's the Stronach Group decides to put Tapeta. And then last, I want to go down to San Luis Raised Downs. Um, the whole closure of Golden Gate Fields was because the Stronach Group wanted to open racing in Santa Luis Race Downs in the Central Southern California section. Have you heard anything about Santa Luis Race Downs ever since the closure of Golden Gate Fields? Nada. In fact, when Golden Gate Fields closed, I looked at some local coverage, and the reason is because of the conditions of the racing industry. But that's not what was announced in July of last year. The Stronach Group announced the closure of Golden Gate Fields because they wanted to conduct racing in San Luis Reyes Downs. Nada. All this time, they never said anything. Ever since the closure, you never heard anything about San Luis Reyes Downs. I mean, I could be wrong, but with the with the internet, social media, nothing has been mentioned about San Luis Reyes Downs. Like they're going to try to improve the racetrack. So they straight up told it was a straight lie. And I think as bettors, we're just fed up. As people who go to the racetrack, we're fed up with all the lies that the Stronach Group has done. So yeah, this is the anger that I have with this whole Golden Gate Fields. It's a straight lie, and the Stronach Group should be called on that lie. So what's going to happen in racing in Northern California? I don't know. I know Pleasanton's going to be taking over at the moment, and I haven't gone to a racetrack since Golden Gate Fields closed. But I will go to Pleasanton to see how it works out, how it is. Am I hopeful? I'm more concerned. And with Pleasanton is they don't have turf racing, and then you see this picture here. There's grass racing at Golden Gate Fields. There's no grass racing at all at the moment at Dublin, so I don't know, or Pleasanton. I don't know, so I don't know how that's going to handle it. So I'm more concerned about the overall. I'm more concerned about the racing environment in California, and then that's it. I mean, I'm hopeful, but it's more concerned. So the only thing we can do is just make besides betting is to make videos like this, and just that's the only thing I could think of. So yeah, that's all I have to say at the moment.